Daniel, thanks once again for being here. Excited to talk with you about The Walk. It's such an impactful film, and I can't wait to dive a little bit deeper into some of the themes in there and some of the things that really struck me. But I first want to start off with asking what drew you to telling this story?
Well, some of my dad was a big civil rights activist in the 1960s and 70s, and I grew up in Boston. So he was actually, right in the middle of all of this controversy, trying to integrate the schools. And some of my earliest childhood memories have been, rocks getting thrown through our window, death threats on the phone and so forth from my dad. So to me, my co-writer, George Powell, he suggested the story. He knew about my history and so forth. And he suggested it. And I just was like, yeah, I'd love to, because it's so pertinent to, it's something that's in my childhood. And I really wanted to express, express it somehow. So it was perfect. And it was right along the themes that I usually have for a lot of my movies. So it was just to me a really personal story in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I think it's tough to watch this film and not observe parallels to today. At one point, there was a line where I think it was, quote, "Blacks are coming to our schools, causing problems, going to ruin our senior year." And that same type of vitriol, we see it today. It's on social media. It's in different, it's out there in different ways, but all the same, really, when it comes down to the sentiment. Was it your intent to draw those connections to today?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, the purpose of art really is just to comment on the current, social situation. I mean, I think it was, Nina Simone said, all art should be current. I mean, that's the purpose of film, in my opinion, is good films. If you're trying to be an artist, you have to comment on the human condition. So just like the movie MASH was not really about the Korean War; it was really commenting on the Vietnam War that was currently going on when Joseph Heller wrote the book. I mean, it's the same situation. You want to take something historical, but that is relevant to today. So yeah, absolutely, blatantly so.
Yeah, very, very much so. There's a lot of different balls you're running with in this. There's a love story, sort of a murder mystery to an extent, a crime drama, a racial drama. As a director, how do you go about balancing all of these different layers and making sure that they're each seen to fruition?
Well, although the backdrop is busing and racism, I wanted to tell a story about a family, and really two families, but dealing with an issue of racism. In the context of the white family, the Coughlin family, they're dealing with their daughter, who's turned out to be a racist, and they're trying to correct that situation. And so that's the story I wanted to tell, but because the backdrop is South Boston. South Boston is so rich. I mean, if you're a cop, he's a cop. So if you're a cop in South Boston, I mean, you obviously are, and you grew up there. You obviously know who the mob boss is. You probably, some of your childhood friends are not cops. In fact, they're hoodlums. So it's just trying to get the richness of the times and also the backdrop of South Boston and also Roxbury. So, and give people a context of what this family is up against, not necessarily in the home, but also when they walk outside, what's going on out there and all the issues they have to face with and all the things that their daughter is exposed to. So I guess that's why. So that so the tapestry that we're trying to weave is basically just the backdrop that if you grew up in that era and even today in South Boston, that's what you're contending with. So
I think those interactions between Bill and Kate in the movie were really fascinating because he was experiencing similar challenges in the police force and sort of how he interacted with other officers. So that was kind of fascinating. But, of course, he's played by Justin Chatwin and was sort of a dynamic character that had some questionable activities in the past, but seemed to have this strong moral compass. Where do you think that came from with Bill Coughlin?
Well, because, I structured the story so that he's married to someone, Pat, his wife, played by Anastasia Matrunin, is a great actress. I made her not Irish. I made her, she's actually German. And is because I wanted her to have suffered some bullying as in high school, let's say, so that it made Bill more aware and more empathetic to that sort of treatment. And so to me, like a lot of us, our marriages, save us in a lot of ways. And Bill was no exception. I mean, he, I think that's where his empathy comes from. Yeah. So that when that was an important aspect of the film, that his marriage was where he got his the tempering of his potential racism and his potential violence. And that's why he became a cop.
Jeremy Piven's the other actor that was very surprising to me here, because my memory of Jeremy Piven is always in more of a comedic role, and Entourage and all of that. But he comes across and plays the character here so slimy, which obviously is what's called for. But what did he bring to this role, and kind of how did he bring this character to life?
Well, I mean, when I first talked to Jeremy about it, I was like, I want you to be unrecognizable in this film.
I will say that it took me a little bit to realize it was him.
Yeah, he's a great actor. He's a great actor. Plus, I really love casting against type. Yeah. The same thing with Justin. I mean, you don't picture him, and if you look at his other roles, from Shameless to War of the Worlds or whatever, you don't picture him as a Boston Irish cop. And the same thing with Jeremy. I mean, you just, you think of him as Ari Gold, or, really slick Hollywood agent, or some other manifestation, but never do you think of him as an Irish hoodlum and from South Boston. And that's what I love. And the fact that, the idea is cast against type, but then cast really, really brilliant actors. And Jeremy's brilliant. I mean, he's a really, really good actor. I don't know if you know this, but his mom is one of the great, acting teachers alive today. I mean, she's legendary in Chicago. She started she and her husband started the Piven theater workshop in Chicago, and not only was Jeremy a product of that, but John Cusack and his sister Joan, and Bill Macy, and a lot of great actors have come from that theater workshop. And so that's Jeremy's. He's really so into just breaking down a character and really, really getting into it. And he's one of the better actors I've ever worked with. So it was easy for me to cast. It was like, okay, you're gonna play somebody that is so far away from what you have ever played. And he was like, yeah, I really want to do that. So
when the character first gets out of prison, I didn't notice it at all that it was Jeremy Piven, and it probably wasn't until the next scene that he was in that I saw it right away. But yeah, great transformation there.
Well, he would take that as a great compliment, and I'll let him know when I see him.
The other standout for me in this film was Love Simone. She was such a powerful force throughout, and the final scenes are largely driven by her. And, you know, of course, Terrence Howard and the interactions with Bill's family. But there was this striking moment with Kate, with Bill's daughter, Kate, and the conversation and really the confrontation around the incident with the car and the rock. And I go back and forth with what emotions, Love Simone's character is feeling at the end when she grabs Kate's hand. And this won't post until after people see the movie. So, but it's, I know that filmmakers like to leave this open-ended so that we feel what we feel and try to, ponder that. But from your perspective, is that compassion? Is that forgiveness? Is it understanding? What was your intent there?
Well, the intent was to leave the question open-ended, and sorry, but sorry to be predictable. But it's Kate who reaches out to Lovey. Lovey pulls away.
Yeah.
Or Wendy, Kate, Lovey's character, and then she's, after she pulls away, she is thinking, and that's how I end the movie. And the point is, to me, is that the solution is not that simple. The white person wants to just reach out and say, okay, let's just, I get it. So let's be friends now. And it's really just not that simple. You're talking about, centuries of oppression. You're talking about, all kinds of, the slavery issue, the Jim Crow era. I mean, you can't just say everything's fine. It's something that has to really just be contemplated. And I wanted to leave the audience with the question of, should she reach back out or not, and let the audience decide whether she should or not. And that to me makes the ending more profound. So
I would agree with that. It definitely is thought provoking, and it's it left me just wondering, what. And this isn't even the right way to think about it, quite honestly. But what's the right answer there? What's the right way to react? And then you get into thinking about each of their perspectives in the moment and their families, and it's just and their experiences. So it really is a profound ending, and I appreciated that after such a deep dive into the topics in the film.
Well, and just one note: the one of the distributors, not and a bunch of other people just put a lot of pressure on to say, can't they just hold hands at the end? Can't you just? And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree.
God, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no, that's fine. That's very interesting to hear. One of the other things that struck me was how devastating this time was for kids, and especially Black kids. And the scene near the end where the kids being bussed in are crying as the crowds are protesting loudly and violently attacking the bus, that really struck me and has stuck with me a little bit. Diving into the specific story, the racism of the time that continues in the same and mutated ways today. How do you as a filmmaker feel at the end of the day tackling such a tough topic? I mean, this isn't, at the end of the day, it's not the feel good, romantic, comedy or whatever it may be, but you're really presenting some really serious issues on the screen, and trying to present them in a way that I would imagine you would like audiences to really consider what's being presented and think about them. But how do you kind of grapple with that at the end of the day as a filmmaker?
Well, a friend of mine is a fairly well-known folk singer, and he's known for singing a lot of anti-war songs. And every once in a while, some fan comes up to him and just says, come on, do you have to keep singing anti-war songs all the time? Can you do some nicer songs that are happier or whatever? And he said, well, when they end war, I'll stop singing anti-war songs, in the meantime.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, same thing. I mean, we have racism is we haven't progressed since 1974. We haven't progressed in 100 years and or longer, and we just have to keep hammering away at this. And the great thing about filmmaking is that you can expose people to aspects of life that they wouldn't necessarily be exposed to. Okay. And you touched upon like what it was like for those kids to be on the bus, and that is I really wanted people to feel what these kids were feeling when they were being bombarded on the bus, like, so that at least people can have some empathy for what these kids went through. It was just hell, and to be not welcome like that in such an extreme manner, is I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but it's so traumatic that you just really and I just really wanted people to feel that, and hopefully it did. So so as a filmmaker, it's a tough subject to to get back to your question, it's a tough question to tackle, but I have no choice as a filmmaker. You have to keep. I mean, I've touched upon similar themes in other films, but in a much less subtle way. But I mean, things have gotten so extreme that I think as a filmmaker, you have to get even more obvious and extreme.
Sure.
Otherwise, why are you a filmmaker in the first place? I mean, is really what you have to ask yourself. So.
Yeah, seeing it on film, I think the medium of film really presents the opportunity for diving into some more the empathy, really. I mean, thinking back to textbooks when we're talking about busing or segregation, and we really don't have that connection the way that you do through film, and the way that that hit me when I saw that scene in The Walk. I think that was it's really interesting hearing that, and just how the utilizing film can really drive home a different aspect of something that we've maybe known about and learned about for quite a long time, but maybe haven't considered in the way that's necessary. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the great thing about film is, unlike reading a history book, or unlike reading or watching a documentary about this, you can actually take the audience into the situation, and that to me is that's why it's such a powerful medium. Feature films, let's not squander that ability, as filmmakers. I mean, often, unfortunately, Hollywood's known for some really bad art too. So, but
you don't say.
But and a lot of filmmakers squander that opportunity to really give audiences, to change them and affect them emotionally, other than whatever so some of the typical movies where justice always prevails and all that stuff. I mean, it's not true in life, so, and as I said before, I mean, art has to reflect the current times, and a lot of these films do not. So, but in any case.
Well, and I think it's a great film to open the festival this weekend. It definitely is thought-provoking, and I commend you for just the effort to bring this type of story to light, because it is impactful, and if it impacts one person, it impacted it impacted who was intended to. What's next for you after The Walk?
I'm doing a film called two films actually. I'm doing a film called The Panic, which is set in 1907. J.P. Morgan is the main character.
Interesting.
It's about the financial meltdown of 1907, and I wrote the script as well. So I'm just getting script notes now and doing a rewrite. And then I was just hired to do something I didn't write, called Jonestown, about the 1978 Jim Jones. Yeah. Drink the Kool-Aid kind of, that whole thing. And we're supposed to shoot that this summer, and we're just casting that now. So
wow.
So those two films coming up,
Such fascinating pieces of history to explore. And definitely with Jonestown, it doesn't seem like you're getting any lighter fare moving forward. Daniel, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. It's definitely an enjoyable film, and I really hope that everything goes well at the festival this weekend, and can't wait to hear more reaction.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate your time and your interest.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Well, hopefully we'll talk again soon.
That Jonestown one is right up my alley. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Cool.
So, all right. Take care.
See you later.